This video features the Nc6 defense that I covered yesterday. In fact, I have a new course on the Nc6 defense, or the Nc6 defense against the king's pawn game, which I still believe is best by test. Now, after my yesterday's video, there was one negative comment that came from an unknown individual saying all sorts of things like, the Nc6 defense is not the strongest defense in the world. It shouldn't be overrated. What matters the most is the middle game and the end game. Dude, look, chess is dynamic. And while you might be right, what matters the most is the middle game and the end game. You still have to work for your meal in the opening stage. The opening stage is like the foundation. That's where it all begins from. You need to start making your plans right from the word go. So in other words, an opening stage only prepares you for a comfortable middle game and a solid end game. Anyway, so what I'm going to do in today's video is I'm going to play a game just to prove a point that you can still get comfortable positions with this Nc6 Nc6 defense. But first, let me show you some of my games and how I play this on Lichess so that you understand my point. As you can see, we are in the Lichess database right now, and this is my username. By the way, this is just one of my accounts that I use for YouTube content, UCGM Casper. So I'm reviewing these games from my side as black. You can see most of my opponents play pawn to d4 by now. And I want you to see how the score percentages will change. After pawn to d4, I play pawn to e5. Only the top played move, as you can see. And now see what Lichess is telling you. I win about 54% in this specific position when I play the Nc6 defense. What are you talking about? Especially when my opponents play pawn to d5, the top played move. What do? I go knight e7. Now it's 54% win rate for me after pawn to c4. Worse off, if my opponents play knight f3, I win about 59%. Almost 60% more than white players. I didn't edit these things. It is Lichess giving you the stats, so I know what I'm talking about. And I wasn't joking when I said the Nc6 defense is actually what made me who I am today. And I'm going to tell you why this defense is so special. I'm not just talking about sales. If anything, I'm just helping you to change and improve your chess. So, pawn to c4 is what most of my opponents play, and then I play knight g6, still above 50%. And then my opponents play knight c3, as you can see, the top played move once again. And this is when I play what? Bishop b4. Pap, now we are talking about 57% win rate. After bishop d3, I just oversimplify the game just like I showed you yesterday. And then I play pawn to d6. Still above 50% because chess is not that simple anyways. I play against higher rated opponents, so you must understand. Now, knight e2 is what most people play. If they play bishop e3, see my score statistics here, 81% win rate, which means I win more games when my opponents play bishop e3. Anyway, knight e2, I just go knight f6, 65% win rate, castle short, and then they play pawn to f4. This is the main area of my meat. You will see most of your opponents playing this combination of moves, knight e2 and pawn to f4. What do? In my new Nc6 defense course, I advised that you should always take on f4 with your f-pawn, especially when your knight is on f6. Obstructing your queen. After knight takes f4, hold on, there are some very interesting knight maneuvers in this position. What you want is to put one of your knights on e5, period. You want to put one of your knights on e5. It can be your g knight or your f knight, like this. I love this other idea of going knight f d7 and then put my knight on e5. At times I used to play knight g4, but it just didn't work well, especially back in the days. Yeah, the idea is still the same, trying to put the knight on e5, but I just don't really get it. I guess the only reason why Stockfish prefers knight f d7 is maybe if things go wrong, say after knight f d7, knight takes, pawn takes, and bishop f4. You can even put this knight on c5 in some lines, probably after queen e7, rook e8, and then knight c5. Stockfish likes this move. Before a5, Anyway, nevertheless, I play knight e5 in this position most of the times because I know I have this anyways and a5, and then my opponents play bishop e3. What did I say? Whenever you see bishop e3, always think of this move pawn to c5. That's why you want to go b6 to stop that, and after something like bishop d4, you go queen e7 and continue playing your chess as the wind goes. a5 is also worth considering and all that. So it is in such positions where I would think of playing knight fd7, a5 and bishop s6 to pressurize the c4 pawn. Just playing my game. Sometimes I like putting my rook on e8, take the bishop and take the free pawn. So all those are ideas I'm giving you. We're going to see how things may go in a live match. After e4, knight c6, d4, e5, d5 and knight c7, sometimes my opponents play knight f3, which gives me about 59% chances of winning. And then I continue with knight g6 as always, defending my e5 pawn. And this is when they play pawn to c4. As you can see, 68% win rate. And after bishop b4 check, you can see once again I get about 70% chances of winning. So I go bishop b4 check anyways. And after knight c3, I take. Someone asked in the comment section, what if white plays bishop d2 or knight d2? Well, you just take. To oversimplify things, the beauty is that now you won't even need to develop your king's knight on f6. You're going to put it on h6. But of course, in this particular position, you always want to play d6. Why? Because you don't want to allow white to occupy the c5 square with their pawn. I mean, that's the whole purpose of getting rid of your dark square bishop, so that you can play d6 on the next move. And should they play something like bishop e2 like what they do to me, now this is when you play what? Knight h6, the move that I recommended in my new course. Knight h6, because this gives you a chance to go f5 in the near future. See, once again, I'm still in the Leeches database, only showing you my games. After castle short, which is what most people do, I just castle short, and then one game continued as follows. Somebody played rook e1 here, and this is when I played pawn to f5. Supported by my h knight. By the way, I could have also played knight f4, but I just didn't see a better continuation after that, which is why I trusted f5. Black took, and then I took back. Then after bishop d3, this is when I played knight f4. My opponent took, and then I took back with what? My eyes? My nose? No! I took back with my bishop. After knight e4, I played pawn to h6. I don't know why, but I should have taken on e4. h6, just stopping one of the knights from coming to g5. Knight g3 was played. Then I played bishop g4. Then after rook e3, I played queen f6. h3 was played. And then guess what? In this position, Stockfish wanted me to sacrifice on h3, but I did it this way. Pap, taking the knight first, because I knew after rook takes, I had knight takes h3 sacrifice. The point is, if pawn takes, I was just going to be up a rook, up an exchange. So my opponent didn't take the knight, I don't know, for some reason, they played king f1. And then I played knight back to f4, because what else do I know? Knight e4 was played, attacking my queen, and then I played queen h4, intending to checkmate. This is how most of your games are going to be going. King g1 was played, and then what did I do? Sacrificed on g2 in a timely situation, just like Stockfish wanted. Pap, this is what I'm talking about, you guys. With this move, I was also indirectly attacking the poor knight on e4. My opponent took the rook on f8, I took back, because that was check. And after king takes g2, I took the knight with tempo. f3 was played, I played, oh wow, I took the pawn. Actually, I thought I played queen g6. Rook c1, I played queen h4, and then it was just a matter of time. Oh, my opponent resigned in this position. So, simply because it was just too much, I had this coming and pap, go to the second rank and mate. And look at how fixed my pawn structure still is. On the queen side, this is what I'm talking about. So when you play the Nc6 defense correctly, you're going to be winning like this. So before I play a game, why the Nc6 defense though? Why not playing the Sicilian, the e5, Paris, the Gyoko piano? All those openings are fine, but it's just personal preference. One thing I like about the Nc6 defense is its simplicity. That's one. Number two, at least the game plan is clear. Even in the middle game, you know what you're supposed to do. You know where to put your knights. On g6, on e5, you know where to put your pawns. And by simplicity, I meant, you see the way we lock the pawn structure on the queen side in order to stop focusing on that side of the board. By doing that, we focus all our energy on one side of the board, which is the king side. The same thing that we do even in the Mexican defense, the Czech Benoni, and the King's Indian defense, even in the classical variation of the Perk defense. So this is what I'm talking about. Number one, simplicity. Number two, clear plan. And number three, it is so relatable if you think about it. There are so many openings such as the ones I just mentioned, the Mexican, the classical variation of the Perk, the King's Indian defense, the Czech Benoni, that may all take you back to similar positions of the Nc6 defense Kennedy variation. If you don't believe me, let's look at the Mexican defense, where white starts with d4 and then you play knight f6. After c4, now I'm looking into the Lichess database, by the way, you go knight c6. After knight c3, the top played move, you go pawn to e5. And then what do we see? d5 is the top played move, right? After this, you go knight e7. After pawn to e4, you go knight g6. Starting from the Mexican defense, you can see with your own eyeballs. And after the top played move, bishop d3, you go bishop. This was not the Nc6 defense, by the way. After knight e2, you play d6, castle short, b6, a5, same stuff. Even pawn to h6. If knight f3, once again you oversimplify the game on this side of the board, and then you play pawn to d6 to discourage c5, just like I said. If they castle short, you also castle short. After h3, stopping you from pinning their knight, this is where you may start advancing on the king side, beginning with the move knight h5 and this. You can also play h6, b6 and a5 just to complete your pawn structure, but I find this to be interesting. Why? Because if white takes my pawn, thinking it's free due to queen takes h5, again, just like in the normal Nc6 defense, I end up winning the light squared bishop for free. So you can see we started with the Mexican defense against d4, but we ended up having a position that looks like the Nc6 defense, which is why I said the Nc6 defense is so relatable. Sometimes you will start with a different opening but still end up with these kind of, piece structure. So this is what I'm talking about with the Nc6. It's not the greatest defense in the world, but it is so relatable. Even if you play another opening, you might transpose, especially in the King's Indian defense. The only difference with the King's Indian defense is that we normally have our G pawn on G6. That's the only difference. Anyway, let me not do much of the talking and challenge a random chess player on Lichess. Before I do that, why do you hate me so much? Why do you hate this channel? Subscribe now, because that's what encourages me to keep on making more wonderful videos just like this one. And I'm still adding more things and more developments to my new Nc6 Nc6 defense course, which you can find at kasperchess.com or on my Patreon page. So even if you bought it already, don't worry, you will still receive those new developments and updates for free. I will reach out to you and update you each time I add something. Thank you for your support. Right, so I'm playing against a 2193 rated opponent. There we go. With the Nc6 defense. Let's see what my opponent is going to do. Okay, so my opponent avoided to go into the mainline Nc6. Probably they don't know exactly what is going to happen to them after that. So they chose to transpose the game back to the Scotch. It's like the game started like this. e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, and then pawn to d4. So this is the Scotch. What did I say? To avoid all unnecessary traps of the Scotch, just go ahead and take on d4 with your knight. This works like magic, ladies and gentlemen. If you take with your pawn, that's fine, but be rest assured that your opponent probably knows one or two things or certain traps that you are not aware of. So just go ahead and oversimplify the game by taking with your knight on d4 and then go knight e7 after queen takes. If bishop g5, I have knight c6. There's a little trap. Just like I said, so you need to sacrifice your queen temporarily, because if they take, you're going to be up a piece or up a bishop. So this will come as a surprise to my opponent, I know. Okay, so my opponent played something else once again. So they played queen d5. But there's one move I think that I covered in my course or in one of my old videos on YouTube in this position. Instead of playing bishop e7, which is a normal looking move and fine, you can first of all go bishop b4 check. The idea is to provoke a weakness. Yeah, forcing white to play pawn to c3 somehow so that they won't have knight c3 in the near future. And now after this is when you retreat your bishop back to e7. There's a reason. If bishop takes, I'm going to take back with my queen. So this is how you avoid all unnecessary traps of the Scotch. Or the Scotch gambit traps. Bishop c4, they want to checkmate on f7. Nope. Yes, now I can take back with my queen. You see how the game is well simplified now. Pawn to d6, paving way for my light squared bishop. If pawn to f4, I'll be happy to play bishop g4. Just provoking many weaknesses. And now this is just anyone's game where the best player has to win. I feel I'm ahead in development because I'm handsome. No, I'm joking. Of course I am. Anyway, so this is a casual match. As always, I don't like playing rated games when I'm live streaming or when I'm streaming, whatever works for you. Simply because I feel like I'm cheating when I'm playing a rated match on camera. In fact, Lichess doesn't even support that. At least for streamers. It's like you're milking your opponent's ratings undercover. Because none of these people know my true identity. Let's attack the queen. And I'm thinking of sacrificing on f2 anyways, if queen h3. So clearly white is in trouble. I'm going to do that anyways. The only sensible move for white here is queen h3 after... Oh, wow. They just hung their queen. These are the consequences of avoiding to face the Nc6 defense, you guys. So I'm asking you to go and purchase that course, which I'm still developing, by the way. So even after you purchase, you will still be receiving some new developments and updates. It's not like a one-time course that I don't intend to continue developing. Anyway, this video was sponsored by all of our paid members on Patreon. These are the guys who support Casper Chess financially. In return, we give them extra study materials and other premium content on Patreon to thank them in style. Not to mention that all of our patrons are at liberty to make video requests and ask any chess related questions. You can join free membership and pay later if you want through the link in the comment section down below.